it doesn't cinch your waist in at all. They're really comfortable. So they're really just there to boost your bosoms. That's about it. Hi guys, it's Abby. I thought today I'd talk about all the projects I made in 2020. So, 2020, what a year as we know. So before 2020 started, I had spent 10 or so years doing cosplay. I still do cosplay, but as you know, all the events have been canceled, so it's kind of difficult to make costumes for no events. So at the beginning of 2020, I think we had moved, so I hadn't made anything up till about March. And in March, we were planning on Emerald City Comic Con. And obviously that did not happen, but I think I had made a headband with a bow on it for Blossom for my group of friends cosplay at that point, and nothing else. So when the pandemic hit and we were all told to stay indoors, I was like, what do I do with my time? So I first started with making a lot of projects that I had been putting off. I still have a few of those, but a whole lot less than I used to. I started out with making a couple generic renn faire outfits, like long skirts and laced up vests over chemises, and one of them had a pirate shirt that I had made last year, that I had worn to renn faire last year. So I made those two renn faire outfits because I'd been putting it off and I had fabric. And then I bought fabric for a dress because I thought I was going to be going to a wedding, which I didn't. But that dress was one that I actually bought fabric for at the beginning of the pandemic, and that one turned into two dresses because I had enough fabric. So I did a long floor length, kind of retro looking dress out of like satin green floral fabric, and then I used the rest of that fabric to make a short wrap dress, which I thought was pretty cute. And so at that point there was a couple crop tops that I had wanted to make. So the crop tops, I had a green and a pink one that I wanted to make. I had a pattern, so I did two of those. They had structured bodices underneath so that, you know, you're not showing your underwear to the public. I had started following historical costuming groups on Facebook. And I think I had a couple friends who were doing historical costuming stuff. You know, I don't know what the timeline is. It was kind of, you know how it is right now. It's like, it's been 10 years or 5 minutes. You can't even tell. Half the times I don't even know what day it is.
I sewed up a stretch satin button-up shirt that I've had cut out for years, and a cute sparkly purple spandex dress. I made a long-sleeved blue dress from navy blue silk fabric my mom had given me years ago.
So I know that I worked on a floor-length green velvet dress that I had been wanting for a long time. And then from the historical costuming groups, I started looking at historical stuff. I think I started not long after the pandemic started, because I was starting to get fabric online or using what I had, but for the most part what I had was mostly synthetic, so it's kind of hard when you're trying to do historical costuming stuff and all you have is synthetics. And then I found on historical costuming groups on Facebook the free American Duchess cape pattern going around, and I decided to make that one.
I had leftover fabric from my Merida costume, a synthetic wool type fabric, and the inside is some kind of brown suede fabric that I had from my stash. I had to modify the pattern larger, and I chose to use ties in the back instead.
So then I started really getting into the historical stuff, and because of my love of Anne of Green Gables growing up, I ended up choosing the Edwardian period, which I really, really liked. And I decided to make all the undergarments and then build up from there, and I ended up making the chemise and the split drawers, and then I made my first real corset. I've made corsets before, but I had always done like costume corsets where they zip up the side or aren't like completely constructed in a way that historical corsets were constructed. So this time I decided to make a corset from a pattern. The undergarments I had all gotten patterns from Truly Victorian online, and they fit really well. They were really great. I didn't have to do many modifications at all. So I found a really cute, like light pink vintage silk that I could use for the Edwardian corset, and then there we go. I made my first historical corset. Oh, and I made a corset cover to fill out the shirtwaist. And then I ended up wanting a walking suit first because I wanted to make a super pretty like ball gown thing, but I wanted to do something every day first, I think is what I wanted to do. Oh, and I wanted to make a shirtwaist as well. So I got the Beatrix shirtwaist pattern, I think, from Sense and Sensibility Patterns, and I modified that to what I wanted it to look like, and I did a whole lot of lace inserting with some antique lace that my mom had given me that she had received as a wedding gift from a friend of hers whose mother or grandmother had made it. So I made that, and I found a really cool like striped cotton pink fabric that there was only 5 yards of. So I ended up finding a vintage cotton velvet that made up the rest of the jacket and the trimming on the skirt. So that was my first walking skirt. I think the pattern was the one that I've been using a lot, the Butterick 5970, I think it is. And then the jacket is actually the Eton jacket from Truly Victorian, which I did some modifications to because I wanted bigger puffs on the sleeve and like a more fitted cuff. So I did that, and that was really fun. And my hair, like I got it all Edwardianed up, and it worked out really well. And then, because I finally had gotten all that done, I wanted to make a green silk Edwardian ball gown. So that's what I did next, and I got some Habitai silk from Dharma, and I fully backed it because it's very thin. It was a little hard to work with, but honestly it wasn't that bad. As long as you underline it, it lays really well, and I really liked the color, and it was a lot cheaper than getting regular silks, so that was good. So I did my research for that one. There was a dress on Pinterest that I kind of followed the design of.
A lot of ball gown bodices were boned and had their own self-contained ruffle system, so for this one I didn't use the corset cover. I added ruffles to the underlayer.
So that it would like blouse out instead of flattening and looking all sad. So that worked out pretty well. And then since I was at it, I made a hat to go along with that. And yeah, I ended up making a chainmail purse. It's just made out of really tiny little links, and it'll go with my Edwardian outfits really well. It won't fit my phone, but all my walking skirts have pockets, so I'm not too worried about that. I did make a chatelaine for hanging from my belts of the Edwardian period because that was something that they had. So I had a friend who sent me a couple pieces of silk fabric, and I made a corset and skirt for a fairy. So I made a fairy costume, and it was like a monarch fairy costume, and I really liked that one. It turned out really well. I think what I did for that one was I made a pattern out of an old corset that I had and then added a bust to it. So I pretty much made a Frankic corset. I made the pattern out of my underbust corset that I knew fit me, and then I kind of made a pattern by just draping over my bust area, kind of. It wasn't perfect. I think it would have been better if I had used a commercial pattern, but at the time I was trying to make do with the things I had at home, which meant all my corsets were usually made out of canvas, and honestly I've never used coutil. I hear good things about it, but I really don't want to spend the money on it, so I use canvas. I don't think there's much of a difference. I mean, if I was wearing it every day, it'd be a different story, but I'm not. And no shame to anyone who decides to use couture. I think it's an amazing product. I just would rather spend my money on other things. I still ended up using like steel bones and stuff because I do appreciate the tensile strength of steel bones. So after that, I kind of got interested in like the Jane Austen Regency period type clothing. I'd never really been all that interested in that kind of fit of dress. I always thought it was kind of unflattering on me, and then I just decided to go for it. Why not? I got time. So I started again from the bottom up, and I made the chemise and a pair of corded stays. And I think I used the Laughing Moon pattern for that. They have like the combined short stays and chemise in a pattern, so I was like, hey, 3 for 1. That's great. I actually have the short stays cut out too, but I did the long stays first, so that's what I use right now. And then I made a bodiced petticoat to go over top, which is actually a really good idea because I added tucks at the bottom, which really flares out the skirts and makes it look a lot better, like a little more full. So then from there, I found some really good thin cotton fabric from Dharma again to make one of those gauzy white Regency dresses. So I did like a modified pattern and I ended up really liking the look. So I was like, oh hey, well I guess it's not as unflattering as I thought it was. And the corset, or the stays, not corset, this time period they're called stays because they really only have a few bones in them, and mostly it's just cording and it doesn't cinch your waist in at all. They're really comfortable. So they're really just there to boost your bosoms. That's about it. I did do a fun blue floral embroidered overlay for my white Regency dress. It was before the Bridgerton craze, so I guess I was ahead of my time. It's a cute little overdress that'll work for just editing my outfits. I think at that point I had finally started to want to start a YouTube, which obviously I did about 3 months ago. So you know, from there you can go back in my videos and see the projects I've worked on the rest of the year. So I did a green velvet beret. So I did this green velvet Spencer, which is Regency, and that goes over my other ensembles. So I made my hand-sewn green leather gloves, which will go with pretty much all of my historical stuff as well as my modern stuff. So those are very useful. I've already worn them quite a few times. And then I got into my modern skirt craze, the modern Edwardian long walking skirt. And I modified a kilt. And I made a tartan flannel circle skirt.
Then I modified my summer dress to prepare for this summer.
I think at that point I started working on Regency stuff again. So I had this green floral fabric that I had wanted to make a long Regency dress out of, so I made that. Coming up to the end of this year, so I finished my flannel tartan walking skirt, and I'm in the middle of making my jacket to go along with it. And then I'm actually in the middle of a quilt too that I finished the middle topper part of so far, but I need to continue with that. I did make one cosplay for Halloween. I made Dorcas from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, so that was a fun, like, edit a dress type of project. I have also made a lot of masks this year, obviously. That was the beginning of the pandemic project as well. I learned to make 2 or 3 different kinds of masks. So yeah, I think that's really the extent of my 2020 projects. I kind of went a little crazy and just have gone full bore at projects, and I am hoping that this year of 2021 will bring actual events to wear those projects to. Because I do have a lot of them that I want to wear. So future, I have the jacket to finish for this skirt, and that's going to be done pretty shortly, and I'm actually in the buying fabric online stages of starting to make my 1490s Italian Renaissance dress. So I've been inspired by Ever After and Drew Barrymore's character, and I really liked her goldish green dress from when she saved her servant from sailing to the Americas. It's just a really pretty dress, and I've always kind of wanted one of those, and I have the time still. So I have this really pretty cream silk that a friend sent me that I have enough of for the underdress, and I found a synthetic damask fabric that will work for the overdress, and I was able to find a synthetic velvet to work for the sleeves, and I went to Dharma for their thin linen to make my camicia. Camicia? Kamica. Camicia? I really don't know how to say it, but the Italian chemise. I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce that. That's kind of my future plans. I still have a few other projects that I have fabric for. I do have an almost finished cosplay of Jen from IT Crowd that I really want to finish. All I have to do is make the vest. I have the pattern, I have the fabric, I just need to do it. I have fabric for a Regency overdress, like open robe type thing to wear to balls and stuff. So there's some green embroidered fabric that I have for that. But I do have just random fabrics that might find projects as I go along. And then I need to finish my Regency hat. So yeah, thanks for joining me today. I just kind of rambled about my projects from last year and told you about some of the projects that I have coming up. And I hope you guys want to join me in my future journeys. And if you have any questions or comments, be sure to let me know below. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will have more sewing videos for you soon. And keep an eye out for my Getting Ready Edwardian and Getting Ready Regency, and also my quilt and my jacket, my new Italian Renaissance dress project too. So that's it. Happy sewing! Hi, Bean. Hi, girls. Hi. Okay. We're good. This is the girls, as they do. Bean! I'm trying to speak. Oh, God. Bean, stop. I'm trying to talk, please. The girls decided to just go a little crazy, but that's okay. Bean, not right now.